Bom dia! The Packers are headed to Brazil in week 1 against the Eagles.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. I hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $550 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. The Packers are going international yet again. This time in Brazil, where they have a huge fan base. They will play in Sao Paulo on Friday of week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. There's plenty to talk about what this means logistically and all that stuff. We'll get there. This is incredibly cool. For whatever logistics, I get it. They've done the London thing. The Packers finally had to play in London. They did. But they've been going over to London for a long time. There's an established foothold now from the NFL in London. This is a different continent than football has ever been played in the NFL. And it's in a market, in a country where the Packers are the team. They're the Jaguars of London, but of Brazil. And they have not, by my estimation, done enough to build on that. There were partnership opportunities and different things. The NFL was trying to go global, and so they had teams with opportunities to build these partnerships in different countries. The Packers said, we're good. This is one of those steps. Now, whether the Packers actually wanted to do this is a separate thing. But it is an incredibly cool moment. I mentioned our pal Rendo Ferreira a number of times on this show. I think he's one of the smartest people covering the Packers. He's from Brazil. That's a cool thing. This game is international more than I think we realize. One of my best pals covering the NFL, Simon Clancy, is in the UK. It is very gratifying that other people are going to get the opportunity to see this team, but to cover this team, for fans to experience. Fans that thought, I will never, ever be able to see the Green Bay Packers play, are now going to get to see the Green Bay Packers play. I got to meet Derek Harrer, who covers the Packers for 247. He's Irish. Please let him be Irish. I'm pretty sure he's Irish. If he's Scottish, he's so mad at me right now. But I saw him at Super Bowl. He and his mates had a whole setup. That's incredible. That this, not just Packers, like the Packers part of it, obviously cool, but that this game has gone global. For those of you that don't know, I live in New York. I'm from Wisconsin, family in Milwaukee and Green Bay, all over the state. I grew up there, was raised there, all that stuff, but moved post-college. I get to cover this team from New York. But I don't get to see them week to week as often as certainly I would like to. I don't get to be at practice every day. So when I get the opportunity to be there, when they come to New York, or when I get to go to Green Bay and do that, it's a cool moment. But like, I've been to Lambeau Field a bunch in the course of my life. I've seen the Packers a bunch. And if you're a season ticket holder or you're a fan living in the Midwest, you've probably had opportunities to go, whether it's, whether you went or not, to introduce this team to an entire new audience of people, for an entirely new audience, for tens of thousands of people who probably thought they would never see an NFL game, period, in their home country. The World Cup is a different thing. I mean, they were the center of the soccer universe just a few years ago. But that's a different thing. That's a different football. And so to get an NFL game, it is proof of the incredible pull that this game that I say this all the time and I say it lovingly, and you know that. I hope you know that this channel is for football sickos. The people that just want football every day. I didn't even mean to do the your team every day, but here we are. That's why the tagline is so good. I'm really excited for Wendell and for all the people out there. There are a number of people in my timeline, on Packers lists of mine, that are Brazilian cheeseheads. There was an incredibly moving response that I saw on social media from people that were just so excited that the Packers were getting it to come. Now, the logistical part of this, the time zone is not too bad. It's only 2 hours versus, I think, 7 hours to London, 6 or 7, whatever it is. The time zone is the toughest part, not the travel, not the flight, although it's going to be a long flight. So probably going to be like a 6:30 game, 6:30 Lambeau time on Friday. That means a mini bye into week 2. It means you don't have the wear and tear of the game before. And this is the way to do this. This is the way to do this. And it reminds me a little of baseball, going and playing overseas in they could play anywhere, but they tend to go to Asia, Korea, Japan, and play these early season games when you don't have the wear and tear of the whole season. I would like to see more of these international showcases early season, or always have it be with a bye after the fact. This is the best possible time to have one of these, because everyone's going to be rusty. So the weirdness of it is not, it's week 1, weird things happen anyway. And so you kind of get it out of the way, you get it out of your system. Yes, it's going to be a weird one, but maybe it makes you lock in a little bit. And then you get the mini bye. You'd much rather play Philly in Brazil than in Philly, because it goes from a road game to basically a home game. There's going to be tens of thousands of, not just like, hey, we're happy to be here because it's football and we're cool because it's any football like it is in London or like it was in Germany. No, there's going to be Packers fans at this game. Thousands and thousands of Packers fans. So a Philly home game becomes a Packers neutral to home game. That is also really freaking cool. So I like, the travel is not ideal. Not ideal for recovery on the way back, but you have the mini bye. It's a whole new plan for Matt LaFleur and how you get ready and all of that stuff, but you'll have the week before the last preseason games. Guys will be rested. So that part of it's not going to be an issue either. The only thing to feel about this is excited to me. I just think it's really, really cool. And that's where we are. When we come back, I want to look at some key Packers needs and the paths that they could take. The paths that they could take to filling those needs. There's some alternate routes that they can go. So I want to dig into that in just a second here on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, full pun intended. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. The Bucks got off the schneid. Speaking of Bucks, but Giannis is hurt. If those odds went down, now might be a good time. He's Wolverine. He's going to be back for the playoffs. I still like the Bucks in all of this. $150 bonus bets, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. All on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. Get those Masters bets in. You can live bet. I've got so many Masters bets in. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there are a lot of different ways the Packers can address some of their key positions of need. And so everything is related. And one of the reasons why I started doing this back in 2022, I suppose, because I wanted to look at, okay, what receivers pair best together if you want Chris Olave but can't draft him? Who is the discount Olave? By the way, I believe my answer to that was Romeo Doubs. And so I think the DBs are a good place to start. If, as I currently am predicting, Cooper DeJean is your first round pick, you move up, you give up 88 to get to about 20 to get Cooper. The first question you have to ask is, what position is he playing? I think he's a safety for Green Bay, a hybrid safety nickel kind of player. So then that raises the question, how do you answer this cornerback question? Well, you could, at 41, stay just like the all-in on the DB's approach. And at 41, you take TJ Tampa. Or let's say Kool-Aid McKinstry falls to 41 for whatever reason. That is one way that you could do this. And then just say, look, 58, the best offensive lineman available at 58. And then you have 91 left, best linebacker on the board, best player on the board, however you want to do it. But if you want to attack the defensive back room that way, you could. Another way to do it, 25, stay at 25. Let's say you can't get up or Cooper goes way earlier than you think. He goes 18, he goes 16. And you're like, sheesh. You could move up for Quinion Mitchell, which is something we've talked about. Or you stick and pick at 25, you take Kool-Aid, which I think is very much in play. But so then you have to think, okay, who is the player that best fits with Xavier McKinney? To me, when you look at this group, it depends on what you want. Do you want someone who is also very much interchangeable like Xavier McKinney? I think Cole Bishop from Utah, the safety, is he's an S-tier athlete, has played deep, has played in the box. I think he's better as a box safety, but he has got some flashes from deep. I think he's more someone who you're going to fit in the box, but has a little bit of versatility in that way. Get him at 88, at 91. I think the second round would be a little too early. The other part is if you want a box only, Malik Mustafa is that guy. I love Malik Mustafa. Tested really well from Wake Forest. He is just a heat-seeking missile. I love that. And you can probably get him third round, fourth round, maybe. And so, to me, that is a maybe optimal way to handle the cornerback position if that's the way, or this defensive back situation if that's what you want to do. I think there's also wisdom in saying, look, feel pretty good about the corners. Javon Bullard at 41 or 58. And that's good because he can play safety, he can play nickel, and that's all you really need. You need a little Keyshawn Nixon insurance and another safety. Okay. Some day 3 corners. They brought in a bunch of day 3 corners. We talked about some of the top 30 visits that they've had. I think that's a reasonable path forward here. And then the flip is maybe not the flip, but another path is just kind of waiting. Don't press. Maybe you get an offensive lineman in round 1. Nothing you really like at 41. And so you grab Max Melton at 58 and Dadrian Taylor-Demerson at 91. Great. Add athleticism and playmaking in the secondary. That's easy. You could wait till the 3rd round. Cam Hart. Drew Phillips. Like, there's good players at the end of day 2 if you want to wait. Offensive line. We've talked about the double up. Will Graham Barton fall to 25? I am dubious, but maybe. Or maybe you go off the board a little bit. 25, you go Jordan Morgan. And 41, you go Kingsley Suamataia. Double it up that way. You could go tackle early. We talked yesterday about how finding a tackle might be harder than we think. I think Suamataia is that dark horse pick at 25, and then you just wait. Just wait. You don't have to press at 41. But there are some guys on day 2, Mason McCormick, and if you want to go guard, Christian Hayes. I think Tanner Bortolini is going to be someone the Packers have a lot of interest in, guard or center. I was surprised when the tape matched the athletic testing. He was someone that Bob McGinn's scouting survey, Jackson Powers Johnson, who is the consensus number 1 center in this class, was not in that survey of the top 55 players. Zach Frazier, who is the consensus center 2, not in that group. Guys like Christian Mahogany and Mason McCormick and Cooper Beebe. Guys who are being projected right now ahead of Bortolini, excuse me. They weren't on the list. Bortolini was. And I believe that was before he blew up the combine, or maybe it was right after. But man, if he's going to fall, great, fine. That's all the better for the Packers. And then there's the wait and see approach. Whatever at 25. If you can get Jordan Morgan at 41, great. If you can't, Patrick Paul on day 2, maybe he's too big. I don't know. We don't know. Christian Hayes, are they going to take a guy who's 24 and probably a guard only? Some people think he's a center. I don't like waiting on offensive line, but then if you're going to do that, then just wait. Wait till round 4, where the Packers just seem to hit on these guys constantly. You could do that. Now, linebacker gets tricky because there's no one to take at 25. Could you really reach and take Edgerrin Cooper? Yes, and I think the Packers will consider it. I really do. What I think is trickier to find out, and maybe the reason that I think that there is a growing likelihood that if they can't move up to get Cooper DeJean, that they will just stick and pick Edgerrin Cooper at 25 is, number one, they can probably get someone like Jordan Morgan at 41 or Kingsley Suamataia or Kieran Amagaji. There are going to be guys that are going to be there and fit their types at 41. But on day 2, there's just no one else, really. Now, I saw someone throw out there the other day, Tevin Wallace from Kentucky came in, was a top 30, an absolute crazy athlete. He reminds me a lot of Dre Greenlaw. He often, very much like the former first-round pick that the Packers have at linebacker, often needs a map to figure out where he's going. But man, he gets there quick, fast, and in a hurry. Can play in space, can cover. Showed that at the Senior Bowl. And Jim Nagy likes to gas his Senior Bowl guys. Jim Nagy, who has been on the show, was on the show last year talking about this incredible class from the Senior Bowl, and it turns out they're even better than we thought at the time. And was like, this guy's probably going to go on day 2. And I think in a shallow class, that could be the case at 88 or 91. So then where does that leave the Packers? Because Junior Colson doesn't have an athletic profile. It would surprise me if he was a fit for them. Jeremiah Trotter does not have a good athletic profile, or not a great one. So I'll be a little surprised if he's a fit for them. I think Peyton Wilson, while he is athletic enough, he's small, he's thin, like slender. They like density everywhere. So that would surprise me if they If they were interested in him plus super short arms, he's just like 30-inch arms. That seems like it's not a big deal, but if you want to get off blocks, if you're small, if you're undersized, you better be able to have some strength and some long levers to get off blocks, and he just doesn't. So that's suboptimal. It really just leaves Coop. Another Coop. Is this the Cooper draft? Or at 41, do you just like hope he's there and then just say F it? Like, hey, if he's there at 25, okay, force it. I would rather not. But at 41, I would start to understand it. Like the difference between, I think I have him at 50 right now, my big board. The difference between 41, an early second grade, and just a plain old second grade. I have like late first, early second. That's really the grade. And second is we're splitting hairs. I think he is a good second round player. At 41, that's fine value. But if you can't get him, if he comes off the board in the interim or whatever happens, you probably just wait. Tevin Wallace, I believe right now from Kentucky, is a 4th round pick by consensus. But in a shallow draft, it probably is going to push you up like 88, 91. Interesting. I'm trying to figure all this out. I'm in the midst of making these predictions. And I've landed for the moment, subject to change, for the moment, I have landed on a semi-official prediction on how the top of this draft is going to go for the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Packers. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So I've been noodling over this. God, the draft cannot come soon enough. We still have to wait 2 more weeks. By the way, Field Yates on the program tomorrow from ESPN. First Draft is the podcast. One of my favorite guys to talk ball with and also to listen to talk ball. Just super, super smart, sharp, incisive. Yes, I'm vamping a little bit. Cooper DeJean in the first round. This is my official prediction. They trade up. They get that done. You probably have to give up 88. That gets you to 20. At 41, Jordan Morgan is a slam dunk. Now, I don't know that he's going to make it there. But that is, I think he's very Packersy. And if he doesn't, I know I'm hedging a little bit. Kingsley Suamataia is the other guy that I would put at 41. Now, I mentioned this the other day. We were talking about deep threats and the insurance and all those things. I understand that there are some questions about this particular player and whether there might be some attitude issues. I can't speak to it, and so I'm not going to comment on it. But Jermaine Burton from Alabama, the tape is eye-catching. He's really good. And the Packers hosted him. I like him at 91. But that leaves a hole because 88 that you sent up, but that leaves 58. And And I don't have a good answer for that right now because I think Edgerrin Cooper is probably going to come off the board. And so then it's like, okay, who are some of the other players in that range? Well, Javon Bullard, but are you going to take another safety? I think Chris Jenkins. You know, there have been a couple defensive tackles that they've brought in for visits. Is that the place? Well, only if someone like that is on the board. Rukororo from Clemson. I think that could make some sense. But here's where I've temporarily landed. And this is a player we've talked about previously. He's been in a couple mock draft Mondays that I've done. Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. Right at 59 on the consensus board. A pass rusher. He's got a little inside-outside versatility because he's not super tall, but he's got incredibly long arms. He's like 6'3", 270. He's a little bit of a unique body type. I think he could reduce inside in certain situations. Some people think he's a defensive tackle. I think 4'3" defensive end fits him very well. In elite athleticism. Senior Bowl guy. Packers love that stuff. So, okay, Cooper DeJean, Jordan Morgan, and or Kingsley Suamataia, or Marshawn Kneeland, and then your short one, right? So either whichever one you didn't send to move up, it's Jermaine Burton. And then in round 4, the best running back available. Like I think that there's a good chance that they could get one of those guys, whether it's Isaac Guarendo. I don't think Jalen Wright is going to last that long. Marshawn Lloyd we'll see from USC. Ray Davis is someone they've already brought in for a top 30 visit. Could that make some sense? That's the way that I would stack this right now today. With 2 weeks left to go before the draft, subject to change, subject to my discussion tomorrow with Field Yates. Like I'm allowed to change my opinion, but right now, if I had to predict, that is what I would predict. And I put that out on the X Machine, and a lot of you had a lot of thoughts. I mean, I liked some of the thoughts, honestly. But like I think some of you think that there are going to be players there at 25 that I just don't think are going to be there. So that's part of this, and we just don't know. We just don't know how this is what is gonna be. Like the Packers could have a plan, and it kind of doesn't matter if players go off the board in ways that they were not expecting. Like they make it seem like they didn't think Jordan Love was going to be available to them, so that's nonsense. But that's what they say. So we'll see. Field Yates tomorrow. And a lot more to come before the draft here on Locked On Packers. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe on our socials. Locked On Packers is on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok. It's, of course, on YouTube where you could be watching this right now. So you could stay Locked On Packers.